Get started. So let's go through this.
Actually don't have permission to record. Do you mind
Yeah,
recording?
yeah,
I
I'm
am
recording
recording.
it, Anish.
Okay.
Yeah, I set it up that way. Moreover, let's spend 30 minutes just going through a questions list that we're doing an interview. Then I want to spend a good 30 minutes just kind of giving you my critique and my feedback and trying to help you be better, okay?
Sure.
All right. So, Anish, so I'm going to start my discussion with you now. So here's some feedback I want to give you immediately. Number one, I'm actually impressed. Anish, and I know you know this, you have a very flat affect.
Yeah,
But I'm actually
monotonic.
impressed that you're more lively than I've ever seen you in talking to me, except the only times where you were more lively than this when we talked about basketball. And I'm going to come back to basketball in a second. But I thought I was going to, this interview was me like, oh my gosh, Anish being himself again. But you actually came to life a bit, quite a bit more than I expected of you. So I'm impressed and pleased so that I think you're going to do okay if we can get you just even a little slightly better or a lot better than this because with some practice and discussion, okay? So I like the glasses. It makes you look intelligent. So use that. Um, Everything about this interview, when I come on, let's say Zoom or whatever it is you're doing, everything about your screen is going to make an impression on me, right? So a couple of things I thought may be helpful to you. One, maybe you should pick a background that's not blurred because it's so much more personable if you have a real room where I can see, that you're real. But right now you look like a sort of a robot, right? Albeit this is what we do when we have meetings. Um, that when we have Zoom meetings, everyone blurs the background. But perhaps in your case, to make it more personable, maybe you should sit in a nice room with a nice background and make it real for me, okay? So that's a suggestion you may or may not want to undertake. Um, the other thing is that don't wear your earrings. I noticed that right away. So for me to notice that and mention it to you means that whoever's going to interview you is going to notice that as well. Now, why do I say don't wear your earrings? Is because if it's somebody your age and it's a student interviewing you, I know your generations, everyone does that, and it's no big deal. But if you're interviewing with someone like me, who is older, and you're going to have that, right? A professor, a medical school admissions committee member, somebody that's older and more conservative, is, I mean, I noticed it right away, right? So we're going to notice it. And it may not sit as well with us, even though you may turn out to be a great, likable character. They're going to remember that. This kid was wearing earrings, and it's going to change their mind a little bit about you, right?
Yeah,
So
I I did for my first interview, and I do plan on doing it again. I actually have the interviewers information, so this time I know what they're like, and yeah, like you're saying, they're older doctors.
yes. So just keep that in mind. The black, you look fine in the sense that you look presentable. Uh, but again, these are just suggestions. I don't know if this is going to actually absolutely help you or not, but maybe a tie, that would be even more. Let's say you're interviewing with a medical student, or then maybe not a tie because then you're like being way too formal. But with let's say a physician or an older person, maybe a tie would be like you're basically showing them respect. I really am taking this so seriously. I actually maybe even put on a tie on for you, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then
On game day,
yeah,
I will have a tie.
yeah,
I was thinking light blue tux color, but we'll see.
yes, yes. And the black jacket, albeit it looks fine and distinguished, maybe too somber. Maybe get like a blue jacket or something. Again, all of these things are things that just kind of says things very silently to the person seeing you on the screen, okay? All right.
Yeah.
And the last thing is that, and I told this to Jaden when I interviewed him, is that make sure you set up your screen so that you're looking at me. Because right now, the way you got it, and it's not as bad as it was with Jaden, you're looking down at me, right? So that makes me look like then I'm less equal than you are, right? So sort of set it up your screen so that you're looking directly into the screen and not down at the person, okay?
You think we could fix that right now? Let me see. Does this
Hmm.
better?
Yeah, that's
No.
better, but maybe even better
Probably
that,
just like further back like this.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and a little bit further back because I want to see your hands. Because the other thing, as you see, as you go on, look at your hands. And I actually am going to send you a recording, a podcast I listened to, and somebody who's we're talking about body language, and he was actually really helpful. And I thought about you guys as you go through interviews, so I'm going to send it to you as a link and listen to it. But hand motion is so important when you're communicating with somebody, and you don't want to overdo it, but you got to move your hands to really express yourself. Because I watch your hands, and as we go through, watch your hands. You only move your right hand, and you only move it very minimal. Yeah, because what I wanted you to do is I want you to come to life, Anish. Um, Although I'm impressed that you're a lot more lively than you are in real life when I was interacting with you, and I always found you to be so flat affect person, you still had that Anish kind of characteristic where there were times when I would be interviewing you and I'd listen to your answer, then I'd just zone out because you didn't really grab my attention and keep me in, right? So why did I mention basketball? When you and I talk about basketball, you come to life. And like everything you say is so interesting to me. You just like because you're passionate about basketball, right? So I noticed, first of all, the answers were all there, and it was good in the sense that you read about Tufts, you give me information about Tufts. Um, when I asked you tough questions, like what was the greatest failure? You talked about your grandfather and COVID and how you really wish you could have a chance to speak to him more, right? So you kind of have these things. You have answers that are prepared and pat. Um, so when I asked that question about your grandfather, or you told me about it, don't be so like rushing into the answer because you already had prepared. Just pause. Just give me 10 seconds and say, let me think about it, and then answer it as though you're sort of coming off, sort of on the spot, right? As opposed to a pat answer you prepared. Albeit, I want you to prepare pat answers because you're gonna get the same questions over and over again, right? But give the reader or the sorry listener a chance to think like, wow, I asked him a tough question, but he kind of on the fly, he kind of made something of it, did a good job, right? So give him that impression. But as we go through, watch your hands because I want you to be passionate about your answer. Because I know all of these things every question I asked you, there, you really, those answers you're giving are really, truly down to heart answers. But I didn't get that sense as much as I could have gotten from somebody who's maybe more expressive about their passion, right? Like for instance, when I asked you about your music, you talked about playing and all that, and I know that means a whole lot to you. Um, but I didn't get that sense as much as I could because I didn't feel that passion behind it as you need to express, okay? And again, hand motions will help you get some of that, okay? Um, you're doing much better than I expected. So I'm really happy. We just got to get you to really get a sense to the other person that you're very passionate about these answers and these topics that you're discussing, right? Um, and then I wanted to, what was it? Oh, what was it I was wanted to say? It'll come back. But let's go on. Let's keep going. Um, so let's just start. Anish, you're interested in coming to our medical school. Okay. So tell me, um, what is your background? Where did you go to school? What did you study? And why are you interested in medicine?
Yeah, so I studied at UCSD and got a neurobiology degree major from there. And my interest in medicine really started at an early age when I was 9 years old. It started when my dad actually had five clogged arteries and required bypass surgery. And the care team, led by his physician, um, were really kind to our family and were very caring for us. And so, along with some of our family friends who were physicians there, they helped with my dad's recovery during that time too. So, I essentially wanted to be like those physicians.
So again, going back to the hands, I noticed that hand. I noticed it when it came up. It gave me a little extra something to look at and pay attention to, right? And so again, hand movements are really important. Let them see your hands and use them to express things. I think there are someone along the way used quotation marks, right? So that was really really cool in the sense that you did that, and it made me identify with the answer and listen to it even more, right? But as you see, you only move your right hand and you do it very infrequently. Try to do more, okay?
and have it make a difference on patients of my own and help improve the quality of their lives in the future. So that was really my seed for medicine. And as I went on in my life, I found that a lot of different academic subjects um, were really interesting to me. And in the context of medicine, I felt that a lot of these academics or medicine was a culmination of all these academics, where not just the obvious ones like the sciences like biology and chemistry were prevalent, but also ones like mathematics, humanities, technology, I found were all very important in um, patient care and medicine in general. So that's that interest in academics as well as that want to uh, help improve the quality of lives of patients of my own later is what really was the seed for medicine.
I see. Okay, you see how your hand's moving, and you use that to basically make the point. And again, you only move it in one way. You just kind of have your fingers spread, but you can use it for quotation marks. You can use it to make points with your fingers, one, two, three, whatever you want to do. But communicate with me with your whole body, and let me see your hands, and be very expressive. So you grab the interviewer's attention, and you keep it in them as you're showing more again, more excitement, more passion, and you're really trying to relay things that are important to you to the person that's interviewing you. Okay. Okay. So can you tell me where are you from? Are you what part of the country are you from, and how does that influence your upbringing and perhaps your interest in medicine?
Yeah, so I am from California up in northern Bay Area. Through my life, I've also lived in parts of San Diego when I was younger as a toddler, and then I moved to Arizona too, and back up to the Bay Area. So all the moving really has helped with a huge network of people that I've known, family and friends, etc. And a lot of them happen to be in healthcare as well. So moving to all those places really was an influence in meeting a lot of new people, especially those who worked in the medical field.
Okay. Hmm. So can you tell me a little bit about your outside interests, Anish? What else do you do when you're not studying hard and when you're not working in clinics? Because I saw your application, you seem to spend a lot of time in different clinics. What else do you like about life?
Yeah, so when I was growing up in Arizona, I really enjoyed the beautiful landscape there. The hiking trails and the mountains there were some of the most beautiful I've ever seen. And I would say that really catapulted my interest in hiking in different places. I also am avid on fitness. I go to the gym very regularly and lift weights on my non-lifting days. That is to say, my cardio days. I play basketball a lot and some other miscellaneous things that I do on occasion. I'll play my alto saxophone and pick it up sometimes. And I am an avid manga and manhwa reader. I love reading those types of medias, and I mean even consuming different international media as well. So those are some of my hobbies, and happy to expand on any of them that you may have questions about.
Okay, so I wanted to bring that up. Now I remember what I wanted to bring up. So I think on that and another topic, you said it twice. I'll be happy to expand on it, and I'd be happy to tell you more about it. Don't tell me that. Tell me more, right? And again, your music, interest is very serious to you. I think I asked you that question later, right? Get passionate. I mean, are you not passionate about your music? You seem to have done a lot with it, right? Express and show me that passion, right? Using your whole body, using your hands. And don't tell me to ask you, to tell me about your passion. Go ahead and tell me. Yeah, I know that sounds polite to you, but it is to me it's a way it's more of a way you saying I don't have much else to say about this topic than it is for you to really tell me that you're interested in that topic, okay? Right? So don't say I'll expand on it more if you ask me. Expand on it and to the point where you feel like you've really given a really good answer and really passionate answer about whatever topic is at hand that's being discussed, okay? Yeah,
Yeah,
so
I
tell me
did
about your
notice
music.
that. I used
So,
that as a filler. And so I'll get rid of that and just expand on it more.
mhm. When did you start and why the saxophone and what do you like to do with that or what kind of music do you like? Yeah.
Yeah, so I did start when I was 11 years old, and that was just in my normal band class in middle school, and that sort of catapulted into going to different jazz bands, different ensembles, wind ensembles. So I did play a lot of classical music, where usually in classical music, the alto saxophone plays French horn parts. But frankly, I got bored in those roles and decided to pursue some jazz pursuits. And so that's through high school, I was pretty involved in that. I did a club in college too in my freshman year. And really now I'm just doing it recreationally when I sort of feel like it as an outlet of stress.
I see. So I think some of the people that have interviewed have come and told me that they had an interview where all they would wanted to talk about was the art they did or something totally unrelated, right? Because we're all people. So as your interviewer, I may be a saxophone player, I may be a violin player, I may be into music, right? And then so then all you and Anish are going to talk about the entire interview is our passion for music, right? So be prepared for that. That it's boring after after I've seen Canada after great MCAT scores, they spend 1,000 hours in clinic. You guys are the same over and over again, but this is the part where you can really shine and say, I have this great interest that's totally unrelated to medicine. So really be passionate and let him know about it. And who knows, you might end up, that's all you talk about is your hobby, right? And that's totally okay because I'll remember you, Anish. I'll remember you because you're the saxophone player. I won't remember you because you were the 3.97 GPA at UCSD student. But I'll remember you as a saxophone player, right? Yeah. Okay. So Anish, tell me, so why would I want Anish in my medical school or in my class as a classmate or as a student in my class? What are the things, what are your strengths? What do you bring to us that are very valuable and that that's likable?
Right. So I think my strengths come from my internal behavior, and they do come with a couple weaknesses as well. That if you would like me to, I will embark on as well. But my introverted personality does cause for both, and I would say that the strength that comes from that is my willingness to and ability to listen to people, make sure that they are pretty much heard, that any details that they conveyed to me are remembered by myself, and that I'm a, a pretty good listener in that aspect. I will say that also the introverted personality leads to a lot of introspection on my part. And so I like to plan things out a lot well in advance and really take my time and think about things a lot. And so from that aspect, I've tried to be a more mindful person. And that's something that I work on every day, whether it's trying to improve my mental health, my physical, and for me, my religious as a Hindu. And so I think those aspects, trying to be a more mindful person every day is something that, and trying to improve every day is something that I want to bring to your medical school. And that's why I think that I'm a good fit. And so, as I understand it, your medical school is one that has an outstanding curriculum that not just teaches the academic aspects like the human systems, but the really whole person care. And through my life, that is really what propelled me into medicine. That was the first and foremost part, the art form of it. The ability to save people's lives was a really pure thing to me, and something that I see across your mission that would make me an excellent physician.
Okay, so I like it. I like the fact you read up on my school, that you were able to tell me a few things that you know about the school. That's very good. But try to make it appropriate. Like if it's a medical student, then you want to talk about more of the curriculum. If it's a physician, you may want to talk more about the hospitals that are associated with Tufts, right? So you did good. That's good planning. Um, um, but the thing that again I want you to leave the interviewer with is yes, I want Anish to be in my medical school as a classmate or as a student, right? You got to somehow be able to leave that person with that feeling. And again, I'm going to send you this link to this podcast. There's two things when you're interviewing, when you're meeting somebody, there are two things that really makes you drawn to that individual? Warmth and competence. I throughout the interview and looking at your application, Anish, you're competent. I get that. I can tell. Okay. I can tell from the interview and the questions and the way you answered it. What I don't get from you is the warmth that I would love to have you as my classmate. We could sit down and study together. I'd love to have you as my student where I could, have coffee after class and you and I could be almost friends, right? So work on giving me the warmth of the because again, your flat affect is what really prevents you from showing that. Although you're better than I expected, we just gotta get you better than that, okay? Okay. Then tell me, what are some of the things you think are, let's say, your weaknesses? What are the things that you struggle with that we should be aware of?
Yeah. So it goes back to my introverted personality. And I think that I would like to be more expressive than I currently am. And in the context of medicine, being expressive, letting your emotions be known, is something that I observe to be a crucial part of a patient-physician interaction. Making feelings known to patients, making sure that they understand the level of compassion that we have towards them is something that I believe that I need to work on and to be more expressive. And along those same lines, I think that I'm someone that is very apprehensive about going forward with conflict. I know that at times it is preferable to mitigate conflict, but sometimes having strong opinions on things and voicing dissent is necessary, especially in the case where, say, a patient's life is at stake, or maybe their aspects of their care are disagreed upon. And so, willing to speak up on matters of those things, not just being a yes man, is something that I worked on as my time professionally as both a free clinic volunteer and medical assistant.
I see. Okay. So can you tell me, if we took you into our medical school and we were dealing with the weaknesses that Anish has, what would you recommend us to do in terms of how to work with you so that we overcome those weaknesses?
Yeah, so I think that part of your curriculum um, was very interesting that I read some on your page, and I've been studying it for the last month or so. I learned that Tufts University actually has um, courses outside of just human systems, doctorate courses as early as year one that work on the expression that their medical students have, the language used in different settings. Say, for example, I was really impressed to see that you have different segments talking to, say, children, or talking to patients with traumatic events in their life, or talking to patients with mental illness. And so courses like that that really emphasize that doctoring aspect that help with teach with language is something that I believe I can take advantage of to improve upon my weaknesses, and something that will require some of my own practice on my own time too, and dedication of my own.
I see. Okay. So, Anish, tell me, I read your application and I realized you talked about working with somebody on a medical mission trip, and you felt that you had a very privileged life. And being in the United States, we all do that. We all have a privileged life. We certainly have a lot more in our country than the rest of the world does, right? But can you tell me some of the greatest challenges you've had in your life that made it, like, see, made it really hard for you? Maybe you weren't even able to overcome those challenges, but tell me about some of the things where you really struggle with in your life.
Yeah, so I think that one thing that I did pretty much struggle with was um, getting more in tune with my culture, really. And so that was something that, as American born and parents of immigrants, that was something that I wanted to embark on further.
So you notice how as an issue, whatever question I asked, you'd always say, yeah. And then you go on to answer the question. So vary it up some. If I ask you a tough question, even though you may have an answer ready, just pause and say, I see. And then just give me 5 seconds, 10 seconds to realize that you're thinking about it and you're running it through your mind and then answer the question, right? But every question has the same response. Whether it was a question about your greatest weakness as opposed to your saxophone playing, it was yeah, and then you go on to answer. So make sure you answer it in the sort of fashion that it's being asked. If maybe it's a very serious question about your greatest failure, right? Right?
Because um, my identity is based on that aspect of my culture as well as the American aspects that I've had. And so working to working to know my culture more has actually made me more appreciative, not just my own culture, but learning more about how other people live and their ways of life as well. And so I think in different uh, relevant aspects, when I lived in San Diego, I was working, for example, a large Hispanic population and seeing the different preferences that they had, the different accommodations that they needed was something that I really tried to understand more and help with any accommodations that they needed. And so I think that aspect of knowing more about myself, my own culture, and uh, when I started to embark more on that, that's when I started to appreciate how other people lived and try to understand how other cultures were.
Hmm. I see. Okay. So then,
Can do you mind
can
pausing
you
there?
then tell me about? Mhm.
Um, to me, that kind of sounded like I was trying to like hit a checkbox, like cultural competence. So do you think I'm better off like using a different example for a challenge?
Yeah, I think so. That to me was a kind of a weak example. If you want to use it, you can. You just gotta make it really um, describe to me how it was a much more it was a challenge because is that really a challenge or not a challenge? Um, you just got to convince me that it was truly a challenge. I wasn't convinced that it was a truly a challenge. It's like, what's he talking about? So you may want to change the example or figure out how to really, because it seemed like it was a challenge to you. It seemed like it wasn't nothing, but you got to really convince me that it was a challenge, right?
Yeah,
So
just
I think,
focusing on that challenge part of it more than
yeah,
like
yeah,
checkbox part. Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Um, it sounds like you were able to deal with this challenge and sort of do something about it. Mm, can you tell me about some things that where you just sort of failed and that really hurt you or you regret or give me sort of some of the things that again not so much something that you've accomplished and did well at but something you did very poorly at that has really maybe even haunted you.
Yeah. So I think the one aspect that's really personal to me, and I do point to the passing of my grandfather during the COVID time. I don't think that I was as attentive in maybe picking up the phone and calling him, maybe checking on him at times like that. And that's something that really does haunt me because I do think that um, that level of um, trying to meet connect with family members was something that I didn't necessarily value as much as the time with my busy schedule. And after his passing, I suffered a lot with, just wanting one more phone call with him. And so I think that's something that I'll never get back in my life. But to try and combat that, I try to stay positive and think about the people around me and how I can be um, more present in their lives and maybe pick up the phone for them, say my mom and my dad and a lot of my other family members. And so really trying to spend more time with them and enjoy my time with them now is um, sort of how the resolution, if you would call it, I'd say to um, that challenge that did haunt me.
So just again, oh, sorry, we got to go right there. You've done a lot of work in preparation, grades, and really accomplishments are something that
The resolution, if you would call it,
so you see how you use the quotation marks? I mean, your use of your hands was so rare or so minimized that I actually remember that, right? I brought it to your attention, right? So I like that. That got the message across. You're communicating more than just with your words coming out of your mouth, right? Yeah, so use your hands. Be expressive. This is a very serious topic. This is a topic I'm sure affected you badly but you answered the question in the same fashion you answered all the other questions. Show me emotion, show me warmth, show me yourself, show me your passion, right? So don't be as flat as Anish tends to be, right?
Say to um, that challenge that did haunt me.
Understood. Okay, then let's not talk about what your accomplishments are, something that you really are proud of, that you really accomplished and really did well at. Okay, but outside of school, outside of academics and your preparations for medical school, looked at your application again. You have great grades. You've done a lot of work in preparation for a career in medicine. But something unrelated to all that, what has Anish done in his life that he just looks back and says, man, I really worked hard at that. I'm really proud of it, and you excelled at.
Yeah, so I think that the greatest accomplishment I can think of, maybe in recent years, is my improvement in my wellness, both mentally and physically. And that has stemmed from my drive over the last couple of years to go to the gym a lot more. And I would say that the results that I've seen there, having gained a lot of weight there, and then having losing a lot of the fat there has been something that I'm pretty proud of, and having that ability to say that I'm now fit is something that is priceless for my life in the future. So that's what I would say is my greatest accomplishment, and has really propelled the way that I think about things, and really inspired me to be more careful with my routine and add maybe other elements where I can improve every single day, mentally, physically, and spiritually in all facets.
So this is obviously important to you. I think the words you should be using is work-life balance. Yeah, I don't know if you mentioned that. Did you use those words when you were answering the question? Because what you're saying to use to the interviewer is that I really value work-life balance and I try very hard to balance it, right? So and that's, as you know, today's modern age and work-life balance is a hot topic, right? So tell them this is one of the things you struggle with. Tell them one of the things you're finding success with. Use those words, okay? Okay. All right. For the final question, or actually, I have a couple questions, but let's say the final question is, tell me about your experience as of late. What is it about working in a neurosurgical practice that you spent a lot of time? Kind of give me an idea of how that's affected you. How has it, let's say, affected you in your desire to enter into medical school and into a career in medicine?
Yeah, so I attribute a lot of my understanding of medicine and the healthcare system to my time at the neurosurgery practice. I was there for 2.5 years, and it was really an immersive experience that I started off as an intern. And my duties as an intern included learning how to take history of patients and scribing and learning the general flow of how to run a clinic. And so once I got those bare bones down and learned the fundamentals of doing that, um, I did gain a greater understanding of medicine in the context of neurosurgery of the brain and spine, but I also gained a greater understanding of the healthcare system, learning how to work with different insurances for different procedures, say, for example, surgeries, or working with trying to get patients' imagings or referrals. And that level of navigation through the healthcare system, and my progression in the practice from an intern to a medical assistant a year later, was something that really changed my view of medicine. And in this experience, as I said, it was pretty immersive. I had the fortune of having a mentor who really cared about my learning and development. And he would encourage me to come shadow at any point that I wanted to. And I learned a lot about various different surgeries, but I wasn't just learning shadowing in the OR. I was learning by helping schedule some of the surgeries, submitting authorizations for them. Um, and every week we would have a meeting where we would look at different films of the surgery. I would see the different indications for each surgery. So I was really getting an immersive experience of how a neurosurgeon and his team thinks, and the different components needed for both scheduling patients for a clinic and um, going forward with surgery if needed, or maybe going forward with other treatments, and having a really wide network with other different specialties, such as pain management, such as maybe more conservative treatments like physical therapy, or even primary care and cardiology. So that that experience, going from an intern at the practice to advancing to a medical assistant and a leader for new interns, was something that I that taught me a lot of skills at the practice,
Okay.
and for medicine in general.
Okay, so Anish, I know that you had an incredible experience in the practice. I know that it meant a lot to you. It really developed you, right? But you got to bring that out. It's like you're telling me about it, but it's still Anish too flat, right? So again, back to the hands. Whenever your hands come out, I notice it, right? First of all, you don't show your hands in the image, so you try to show your hands. But maybe one of the ways you can make Anish not be as flat is because even though you may talk in this monotone, maybe your hands can then express yourself more, right? So I know how much of experience, how meaningful of an experience you've had in our practice, but I don't get that sense from your answer to my question, right? Give it to me, right?
Yeah, I also think I could be more organized in that
Hmm.
question too.
Organized as well, but just simply the
Yeah,
sense that you really are passionate, you really got a lot of it. I want the warmth of somebody that's sharing with me their great experience, right?
sure. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. So last question, and this is really a sort of an ethical question I want to pose to you and see how you think. Okay.
Mhm.
So let's say your best friend and you got into our medical school and you guys were in class together, studying together all the time, and let's say one day you found him cheating, that you found him cheating that's just undeniable. Okay. How would you approach that situation with this very good friend of yours?
Yeah, so I understand that although this friend is very dear to me, um, aspects of cheating are unfair to students who spend, say, hours and hours preparing for said exam. And so upon learning that, I wouldn't immediately go and report my friend. What I would do is essentially take take them aside and let them know that how I feel, essentially that their cheating had, well, essentially what I said, their cheating is unfair to those students who worked very hard. And I would encourage them, before I do anything, to report themselves and understand the consequences of their actions. So it would be something that's not confrontational initially, something that is a quick conversation where I can let them know how I feel and encourage them to do the right thing, which in this case would be to report themselves. And if they don't ultimately feel that they should do so, I would let them know that I would report them if not. And so that's how I would approach that situation.
Okay. So you have a good conversation. He seems to really understand and really wants to change. But within a few weeks, you find him doing it again. You just happen to notice. What would you do then?
Yeah, so I think that again, I would have the same approach, continue to talk to them and let them know that what I find they're doing is wrong. But I don't think that my approach would change very much, except letting them know that um, I I'm concerned for their cheating. And again, the right thing to do would ask them to report themselves, and if not, I would be the one that does so. But I would also get a peep more into their lives. Maybe there's things that I'm not taking into account. Say, for example, they have personal things going on that they may not be able to study. And from a standpoint as a friend, someone who's concerned for them, I would try to help them in any way I can. Say, for example, if they need help studying on certain things, or maybe finding time to for me to help in things in their personal life, anything that they need on that aspect for them to really focus academically. um, I would let them know that I would be a helping hand for them in any way that I can to make it easier for them, to make sure that they are getting the necessary time they need to to work hard on their academic endeavors.
So would you turn them in at that time?
So if they, I think that the right thing to do would be to report it again. And so, but that again, that comes with, if they are willing to do it themselves, then um, from a conversation, then that's the route that I would encourage them to go first. And then I would say that yes, I would report them again if they are not sympathetic to what I am saying.
Yeah. So he doesn't report or he doesn't turn himself in, tell the professor he had cheated on the exam. So what would you do then?
Yeah, so I think that I'm obligated to do so for the students who did work hard on their exams and really spent the time to not cheat.
Understood. Okay, Anish, we're gonna stop. Okay, Anish, did Lena tell you she got that question on one of your interviews?
I've not talked to Lena in a while.
Okay, but I think it was one of her first interviews actually. And she got that question, and she said she did miserably on it because she kept going around and trying to say, "I'll keep helping my friend." And the interviewer came back and said, we're not medical school is not elementary school. We're not here to hold people's hands. They're all adults. You can't cheat, and if you cheat, you got to be turned in. So, and I think you brought up a good point about other students and not being fair to them. The only thing I could recommend in your answer is you should say it's also not fair to that individual, your friend, because if you keep tolerating his behavior, he will never change. So if there's a right answer to this ethical question, and I don't know if you'll ever be faced with that, but is to simply say, after appropriate amount of intervention, and I think one of the things that Lena got into trouble is she kept trying to intervene herself and trying to help the person, but at some point you just gotta say, we gotta do something drastic and turn that individual in for the betterment of that person as well as everyone else, right? So again, you may not ever be faced with a situation, but um, think of different ways to answer it and try to kind of do the right thing. That's what they want to see, right? Okay, was this helpful?
Very. I think you gave a lot more actionable feedback than some of my other interviewers. I think that they did also give actionable feedback, but you critiqued like maybe anything that could go wrong. So I really appreciated that. And I liked a lot of what you said too. They're things that I'll continue to work on until my interview on Wednesday.
Hmm. Okay, so I'm going to send you a link. Look at it. It's really, really helpful. It's just tips, things that you should remember to help you just be more communicative and give that interviewer a sense that I like this person. I want to be with that person. I want him in my medical school, right?
Yeah, I'll also drink coffee that day, so hopefully things are a little bit more different. But yeah,
Okay.
we'll
All
see.
right. Okay, I'm going to stop this and I have some questions to ask you sort of off the record, okay?
Sure.
Um, You haven't talked to Lena and Priscilla? How are they doing? It's so hard for me to communicate with them. Has Priscilla gotten any interviews?
I haven't. I was gonna check on her today because of the situation with the fires, and then maybe it's a touchy topic. I don't really like to bring